Hi everyone and welcome to today's video, which is going to focus specifically on the passive voice. Now the three things I will be covering are what is passive voice, how can we spot passive voice in a text, and lastly, how can we write about it. So passive voice really is quite simple, and it all comes back to the syntax or the order of the words in a sentence. Most of the time we write and speak in active voice, and that means we, or the person or thing we're talking about, are performing the action. So I have two examples of this on the screen. I threw the ball and Maggie pushed Ben. Now passive voice, which is less common and therefore more interesting to comment upon if it is being used, is when the action mentioned in a sentence is done to the subject. So if we look at the two examples below, if I was to change I threw the ball into passive voice, it would become the ball was thrown, or the ball was thrown by me. In our second sentence, Maggie pushed Ben, that would become Ben was pushed by Maggie. So now we have Ben as our subject and the action is happening to him rather than Maggie being the subject like in the active voice example. Now it can sometimes take students a little time to get used to spotting the passive voice. So a nice trick I've heard from other teachers is to see if you can put the phrase by aliens after the sentence or as a substitution in the sentence. And if you can, it's likely you have an example of passive voice. We can see this here, as you could say, the ball was thrown by aliens. Or you could say Ben was pushed by aliens. Now if I tried to put the phrase by aliens in my first two sentences, the active voice ones, I threw the ball by aliens, Maggie pushed Ben by aliens, you can see neither of them make grammatical sense, and therefore we know that these must not be passive voice. So let's look at an example of a text and see if we can spot the passive voice within it. Here we have a section of a memoir which was written by a soldier from the First World War, and as we read through it, we'll look at where actions are taking place and then figure out if they're being written about in the passive or the active voice, and where passive voice is being used, we'll consider why that is the case. So this extract starts with the sentence, I was sent via St. Pol to Arras with a fellow operator and was led into the trenches at Rocklincourt. Here we can think about this first sentence, I was sent by aliens, makes sense. So we've got passive voice. The action is being done to the speaker. And then we have with a fellow operator was led, again, was led by aliens. So we have passive voice again here. There I first experienced the bursting of a shell near me, and I laughed at the frightened manner in which our guide flung himself down when the shell fell about 30 yards away. So here again, we've got now there I first experienced, he's the one now doing the experiencing. So we have active voice. I laughed, he's the one laughing, I laughed by aliens, wouldn't make sense. So we've got active voice again here. And then we have in which our guide flung himself down. The guide is the one doing the flinging. So that is active, he is the one doing the action. So we have active voice here. It was not long before I took to flinging myself down on such occasions. We were left in a muddy dugout in Rocklincourt with an officer waiting for the attack. Here again then we have active voice, he is the one flinging himself down. We were left by aliens. We've now got again passive voice being used. They are the ones being left, but they are the ones waiting for the attack. So that is again now in the active voice. That night, one of our aerial masts was shattered and we were instructed to erect another. So if we think about that, we've got two incidences of the passive voice here. That night, one of our aerial masts was shattered by aliens, and we were instructed to erect another. So they're being told what to do. It's happening to the writer, meaning it's passive voice. I clambered up just as the German machine gun swept the line, the lights revealing me distinctly. We have another action here. He's the one doing the clambering, so we've got the active voice. I soon fell into the depths of slime, frightened but unhurt. Again, he's the one doing the falling. We've got active voice there. It was our first experience of enemy machine gun fire. Then we have this final section. I felt intensely relieved that I was to be given an opportunity of doing something useful and of feeling that at last I was to play a real part of the Great War. Well, he is the one doing the feeling. I felt intensely relieved, so that is an example of active voice. But he is the one being given an opportunity by aliens or by someone else, so that is now in the passive voice. And then he is the one playing the part, so we end with active voice there. So now that we've figured out where passive voice is used, the next and most important thing is to figure out why. Now, there are a lot of different reasons why someone might use the passive voice, and if it is useful, I may do a follow-up video looking at the different reasons. But for this video, I think the context of what the writer is talking about is very important. Here we have a soldier, Nayland is the name of the writer, in the First World War, recounting his memories of it. And when you think of a soldier, one of the first things you may think about is how they are bound to follow orders, regardless of their own opinions and safety. And this, I believe, is the reason why so much passive voice is being used here. It's a way of the author showing how little control he had over situations, and perhaps how little he was told by others what was happening. So now we just need to take these ideas and write them up. So here's what I've put. In this memoir written by a World War I veteran, we see multiple examples of the passive voice being used. Nayland discusses how he was sent. I've put he in brackets here because it actually says I was sent, but if we change it to make it sound more academic, we'd put it in square brackets, and was led into the trenches, as a way of showing how little power and perhaps how little knowledge he as a soldier had during the war. This feeling is further exemplified when he states, "We were left in a muddy dugout," giving a feeling of abandonment by those who were in charge, even though this is never stated outright. When active voice is used, it is often to relate actions that were as a result of Nayland being sent or left by others and describe life-endangering moments. Overall, the sense of voice created is very fitting for that of a soldier. They're committed to following orders regardless of their own feelings, and the passive voice helps to capture this. Hopefully today's video has been useful to you. If so, please subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date with more content. Thank you.